So good morning. Welcome to this Invest in Lombardy webinar on investing in Italian real estate. Welcome to all our guests connected around the world. We will discuss about investing in Italian real estate, and we will present benefits and rules of investing in Italy in the sector of real estate. And we will do that together with Mr. Davide Braghini, partner of Gianni Origoni law firm, one of the most important, one of the leading law firm in Italy. I will just take a few minutes to introduce some information about Lombardy region, where actually Milan is based and where we're actually doing this webinar from, as the leading region, Lombardy region, as the leading region of the Italian country in terms of business opportunities and of course as a hub for real estate. So I will provide you some information from the point of view of Invest in Lombardy, the spatial agency dedicated to the attraction of investment on the Lombardy territory. And we'll provide you some information, preliminary information about real estate in Lombardy region specifically, before letting Mr. Braghini better discuss in details about, as I said, benefits and rules of investing in Italian real estate. As you can see from the slides, we'll go through this overview about Lombardy region. And first of all, why Lombardy? Definitely we are used to presenting our region as an attractive region, not just in Italy, of course, but at European level. We've been awarded by the Financial Times, by the FDI benchmark, as a leading region, one of the first three leading regions in Italy in terms of attraction for foreign companies. And definitely real estate is one of the sector where actually we provide many opportunities for foreign companies. A few slides related to why to invest in Lombardy. Of course, a very dynamic and productive region with important figures in terms of GDP. Consider that Lombardy region accounts for almost 25% of the Italian GDP, and the majority of the multinational companies are based, the headquarters are based in Lombardy. We're talking about 90% of them. If we go through those slides, we see that Lombardy region is very much focusing, at least in this part, and in the last few years, and it will do that even more, on innovation, as a real innovative region that is expected to become even more innovative thanks to the regional government next policies for the upcoming 5 years, with already a lot of research centers, universities that definitely help companies, Italian companies and foreign companies, to do better, easily business on the territory. An international hub, of course. This means that we simply not only have four main airports in Milan and in other part of the region, but we're also a very well-connected area for not just Italy, but for all the Central European countries, as a real point of connection, so a real, I would say, an ultimate hub for companies that want to do business all across Europe. Sorry for that, just have some problem with that. Maybe we have some problem with the presentation, but just can check. Sorry for that, just a couple of seconds waiting. So we can keep presenting with also with the slide, helping you to better following us. Thank you. Sorry for that. So just to finish this preliminary part about the main features about Lombardy region, we were talking about the importance of research and innovation centers. Of course, this is what we especially mention when we talk about universities. So we have 13 universities involved and supporting very much companies, especially foreign companies. So in terms of, as I said, companies, and especially multinational companies, the ultimate hub in Italy, but not only in Italy, with the highest density for multinational companies' presence all around Europe. Let's go a bit more about talking about real estate sectors to show you that. Of course, Lombardy region is providing opportunities all around the region. The region is mainly, of course, built up around Milan, but the region is composed by 12 different provinces that can provide different opportunities in the real estate sectors. So not just Milan as a potential destination of your business, of your investment. I would just give you a few information related to Lombardy region in the sector of real estate by dividing in 3 different subsectors. So I would just talk very briefly about hotels, retail, and offices by showing that, of course, as you can see from these slides, the Hotel Investment Appeal Index is very much concentrated, and in Milan, you see from this slide, in Milan and Como areas as traditional destination of investment in real estate, especially in the hotel sector. But if you look at, and we talk especially about 5-star hotel, but if you look at 3 and 4 stars hotel, you can see how the region is definitely very attractive and provides very good opportunities also in 3-star hotel in other provinces. Is it the case of Bergamo, Brescia, and Mantova, and let's say all the provinces all the 12 provinces of the region can provide suitable opportunities. It's always, just one thing again about hotel. As you can see, definitely, Milan is as a leading destination in the region and in the country for investment in hotel. You see that there are different areas of the city, and each area can provide different suitable opportunities of investment. Same slide, providing you information about the price for lease, showing that you can definitely find suitable opportunities in different levels of investment in the hotel sector. When we talk about retail, same thing. You'd have to consider that Milan is famous, of course, is well known for its shopping center, which is in the very heart of the city, providing you, of course, opportunities, especially for investment that can provide very high yield. At the same time, it's good to know that the city is very, especially in the last few years, and nowadays with the Expo 2015 opportunities, definitely providing many opportunities in different parts of the city. So from the very heart of the city, so Monte Napoleone area, with of course high prices and high yield, to other parts of the city, from north to south, from east to west, that can be considered a suitable opportunity of investment in retail as well. This is just to give you another slide to show that the city at the same time is, provides different annual lease rate with different perspective in terms of considering what is your specific purpose, business purpose, investment purpose. So it's good to know that together with people involved in this sector and specialists to well consider the different options the city can provide. Finally, same about offices. You see that Milan is in a international standings has definitely a good position, both in terms of the trend of the lease and the vacancy rate. We're not that far from, of course, the big player as London, Hong Kong, and Paris can be, but we're definitely doing much better than many other cities, as you see from these slides in details. Last word about real investment opportunities in in this short presentation shows that yields can definitely be of good level in all the different categories I mentioned. With definitely a word to be said about the logistic platforms that can provide you, if the average level is 5%, can provide you yield from 8%. I just want to give you a couple of words related to some important projects that are taking place in Lombardy region these days. I won't have time to mention all of them. We can definitely be at your disposal later on, and by staying in contact with you also by email, and we can provide you more information. But just to mention, Expo 2015 has definitely boosted the opportunity of investment in real estate in the north of Italy, especially in Milan area. One of the projects I want to mention is the one of Milano Sesto, so located north of the city, which is an ultimate example of leading projects. Definitely a leading project in Italy, one of the leading in Europe, which combine the objective of doing providing benefit to the territory by creating a huge development project in the health care sector with like a structure of excellence that will grow in both the subsector of neurology and oncology, and at the same time it's providing important opportunities in the sector of shopping mall and other important spaces available for investors. This is something that definitely will make the north of the city very livable and will provide a good opportunity for investors in the next few years. About the hotels, of course, we facilitate together with our partners the possibility to get to know more in details some important, relevant opportunities of investment in hotel, especially these days, which we've been. We see actually from the daily experience that many investors, we see the Chinese, the Indian, the Russian, although of course nowadays there are some problems in the connection with some countries, Russia for example, but also from the Middle East, we see an increasing interest in hotel properties. So we can share with you some opportunities in our portfolio together with the partner we work with. Very last word about real estate project in Lombardy. If you're interested in luxury real estate, we also collaborate with important player of the field of the specific sector of real estate. So it is the case of ANCE, so the association, the Italian Association of Construction Companies in Lombardy region, and together with them we are happy to provide foreign investors with the opportunity of introducing and getting to know opportunities in luxury apartments and villas all around the region. Finally, 2 words before letting Mr. Braghini going in details about benefit and rules about real estate in Italy, more in general in Italy. A couple of words about what we can do as Invest in Lombardy, as a regional government agency, helping companies, foreign companies in their investment project. We of course work, we are a facilitator. We used to be called a facilitator between the private and the public. So the public of, which is Lombardy region, which is the network of the 12 chambers, Lombardy chambers of commerce, with all the private partners, of course. GOP is one of the leading partners in the law sector, but we have a huge network of these private companies working in very different fields, so from accountants to lawyers, from HR specialists to consultants, that definitely help us in providing the foreign investors with all those tools that are needed and providing fast answers, helping them doing business and investment in Italy. Very last word about this soft landing project we are promoting. If you're a small companies, if you're not yet decided your investment, please consider that we can help you together with our private partners and all the research center, incubators and facilitators on the Lombardy territory to provide 3 months free of charge presence on the field, evaluating the opportunity of investment in Lombardy and in Italy, and providing you with this support of network and contacts on the field. This is something very useful that foreign companies are requiring, and we are sure that we will even more be able to increase these networks, especially considering the increasing importance of real estate and real estate, so in structures, buildings available for our foreign companies to enter the market. So thanks for your attention. I will now leave the floor, let's say, even if we are connected by net to Mr. Braghini, that will definitely provide you many technical information about benefit and rules of investing in real estate in Italy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I will try to explain to you what is the general legal framework of investment in real estate in Italy, both for individuals and companies, and what may be the benefits coming out of an investment in real estate in our country. First of all, a very important starting point is that the investment in real estate is open to foreigners. What I mean is that there are no specific authorizations to be taken to buy a piece of land or a building in Italy. The only condition that the Italian government put is the so-called reciprocity condition, i.e. there may be some limitation to buy a property in Italy, which apply to individuals or company coming from those countries where an Italian citizen would be prohibited to buy real estate. So, but if foreigners come from a country where there are no limitation for Italians to buy real estate, then no kind of limitation at all would apply to its willingness to invest in Italy. The additional element that I think it's interesting to say is that the Italian government started a couple of years ago a so-called elective domicile residence permit, by which a foreign individual that is buying a real estate property in Italy may obtain by this way the permit to live in Italy for a long time, and not only the classic touristic visa or a temporary visa for study reason or whatever. The reason for that is that it's assumed that if a person is buying a residential property in Italy, then it's willing to come to live at least for a portion of its life to Italy, and therefore that's an incentive to people to invest and to come to live in Italy in this situation. Differently, not buying a property, there may be limitation in obtaining a residence permit. Another element which is important to mention is that there are a variety of acquisition structures available. Real estate property can be purchased directly or may be purchased through an SPV, a special purpose company aimed at owning and maintaining and managing real estate, or through an indirect investment, in the sense that there is an investment not in a specific property, but on real estate intended as an asset class, and that is the possibility to invest in funds, which could be either contractual funds or, thanks to a very recent legislation, also corporate funds, like LLC, LC, which LLP that we see in other jurisdictions used to invest in real estate. Last but not least, I would mention the REITs, the Italian form of REITs, which is called SIIQ, which is a listed company where the possibility to invest again is limited to a certain asset class, i.e. core real estate properties leased to the parties. I mentioned this indirect form of investment in Italian real estate because they could be very interesting from a tax viewpoint, as I will come back to explain to you later in this presentation. I would also mention that Italy is a very stabilized market where it is true that the price and the value of real estate does not increase aggressively over the years, but we have never seen in the same way a significant reduction in valuation of our real estate. So it's considered a stable market with stable returns with limited bankruptcy events. That's interesting also, thinking to investment in commercial retail real estate. In addition to that, there is a market opportunity right now due to the fact that the price of real estate has been pretty stable over the last 5 to 7 years. So there is a strong expectation that the values and price will increase in the near future. And then investing now or in the next few months in Italian real estate may bring an advantage as one may take benefit of a price that is expected to increase pretty soon. I think it's also important to mention credit facilities. Right now, thanks to the situation of the Italian economy and the situation of the European Union environment in general, credit facilities are available at a very low interest rate, and that's definitely an important point, which make it possible to make investments that were not possible only a couple of years ago, where the interest rates were pretty high. And thanks to a very recent legislation introduced by the Italian government, it's also possible for foreign banks, provided that they are established within the European Union, to lend money directly to purchase real estate in Italy and to take security on a real estate property in Italy without a tax issue as there were in the past. This, we have seen, it's a very interesting opportunity because not only for other European Union jurisdiction, but for other investors coming from other parts of the world, which maybe have already their investment platform in another European country, let's say London or Paris or Luxembourg, and they have already strong relationship with banks in those countries. And perhaps they want to make an investment in Italy, taking the benefits of having the assistance of their usual lenders. In terms of residential target, you have seen before a presentation regarding the interesting possibilities offered by the Lombardy region and the Milan area in particular. I would mention very briefly what are the main interesting points of the different asset class. Residential property may be interesting because it's a very fragmented market where it's possible to buy, in most cases, from individuals that are not very sophisticated, so the negotiation could be difficult, but the pricing and the condition to buy real estate could be quite interesting. There is also in the main cities like Milan and Rome an interesting offer right now of modern, very sophisticated houses which are in line with the standards of the most evolved markets in the world. Something which was not the case in the past years, but thanks to some recent development projects, now it's a possibility also in Italy. The hotel segment is very interesting again. There is a need to have a more organized offer in terms of hotels. And again, it's very fragmented, so there is space for investors that are willing to create small to medium chains of hotels in Italy at any level, I would say. Retail is considered very attractive. We are seeing a number of foreign investors investing in Italian retail. Office is difficult to say because from one side there is a significant vacancy rate in offices in Italy right now, but it's also true that there's a very limited offer of grade A modern offices. So who is invest in those kind of offices has quite guaranteed return of investment because by definition corporation would prefer that kind of location and are also ready to pay a premium rent for those locations. And last but not least, I would mention the privatization process that has been activated by the Italian government in the last few years, by which the Italian government is selling a number of assets. Some of them are very interesting trophy assets, some other are historical assets. Most of them are in central position over different places of Italy. And there are also assets on the coast of Italy, which may be interesting for touristic reasons. The downside of investment in this kind of properties is that the process for the privatization is pretty long, so one should not aim at having an acquisition made in 3 months because that would not be the case. And the other possible downside is that in some cases the government is not selling the full ownership but is selling a right to use the property for a long term, where long term could be up to 20, 40 years. So very similar, I would say, to an ownership title, but not an ownership title, something we may, of course, investigate further with those of you that are maybe interested in this kind of opportunity. Coming back to the legal framework, it's very stable as well, and ownership of real estate is mainly regulated by the Civil Code, which dates back to 1942. So it's a very stabilized legislation where there is no much room to interpretation, let me say. Real estate title, in addition, must be registered in public records, and that's very useful for 2 reasons. First, to check whether a piece of real estate one is looking at is or possibly encumbered by any mortgage or third-party rights, and second, to have certainty of the title when you buy a piece of real estate in Italy, because in order to be sure of who is the owner, one should check the title registry, and if a person has a contract entitling him to have rights on a given property but has not registered its contract, then that contract would not be valid against those that have registered their title. Real estate property of any kind can be privately owned. There are very few limitations which apply to some historical buildings that are owned by the government or by local authorities, and some geographical area like the seashore sands dunes, lakes, and island, lakes and island, which cannot be owned privately. There may be only the concession, the possibility to have a concession to use those pieces of land and to run a business on them for a given period of time. That's typically the case of beaches in Italy, which are the object of very interesting concession taken by some operators in the tourism industry. There is a wide recourse to private and public partnerships in the sense that the municipalities are ready to discuss with private owners that want to carry out a development project or a significant refurbishment project, the possibility, to obtain some results that would not be possible otherwise in exchange of inserting into the project some elements of real estate of public interest. This has made possible, for example, the very interesting new development projects that we have seen in Milan over the last few years. In terms of last point that I would mention is that it's possible to own real estate jointly with other people. What I mean is that two or more persons can be at the same time the owners of the same piece of land or the same building, and may disciplinate in a contract between them how they are going to manage or they are going to benefit of that property. That's typically the case of inheritance, where a person dies and leaves a property to his heirs, which may be more than one. But it's also the case of some large properties where there may be more than one owner, because the investment was perhaps not possible for only one person or only one corporate, and therefore there was a decision to make a joint venture to buy that property. Of course, it might become then difficult to manage the property if the contractual relationship between the joint owners are not very clear. The last possibility that I should mention is that it's possible to have different kind of title on the same property. Therefore, that's the point which must be analyzed when investigating, making a due diligence on a property. One can be the owner of a property over which, however, other individuals have the right to use the property, perhaps for limited purpose, but that right could be for a long term and could be as well registered in the public registries. Therefore, it's important to check whether the ownership title to a building or to a land is total and unencumbered, or is partially limited by other rights. In terms of acquisition structure, the direct ownership it's always possible, as I was mentioning, either from a foreign country, i.e. a foreigner that is willing to buy a property in Italy does not need to establish or become resident in Italy. While for individuals that is pretty easy, and there are no tax issues unless the foreign individual stay in Italy for more than 6 months, in which case he will become tax resident in Italy. For corporation could be a little more, let's say, tricky, because depending on the kind of real estate they are buying, if it's a real estate related to their business, then a foreign company can be considered having an establishment in Italy. Therefore, it is very important to determine whether the real estate that is purchased is for pure investment purposes, and therefore to clarify the situation both in the acquisition deed and to avoid any kind of direct management on that property. The possibility to create an SPV in Italy to buy a real estate is always a possibility. of course, trigger taxation at the level of the SPV. The taxation on an SPV in Italy is in the region of 31%, so it's not huge taxation, but there may be more interesting form of investment, which, however, are indirect form of investment, i.e. investing in real estate as an asset class. These are the possibility offered by real estate funds, either corporate funds or incorporated funds. In particular, there is a new instrument which became available a few months ago, which is called the CCAF. You may have already heard about it. It's very similar to an instrument that exists in Luxembourg and is a fund with a contractual form. So a company which from the tax viewpoint is considered as a real estate fund. The interesting point is that real estate funds and CCAF are fully tax exempt, i.e. the income generated by the real estate they own is not taxed at all. Taxation on distributions may also be limited. That's a point I will come later. What is the difference, however? What is the downside of this kind of structure? They must be managed professionally by an authorized asset manager, i.e. the investor cannot manage directly the property because it would lose the tax benefit. Let me say that for big foreign investors that often is not a problem because they create a so strong relationship with an Italian asset manager which they use to make a number of investments. Then there is a trust relationship which may help the foreign investors to rely on what the asset manager will do without having a need to intervene directly in managing the investment and the property. Similar to funds, there are listed REITs, SIIQ, which are listed company investing only in core real estate, which is leased to third parties. And in that case, again, the income generated by leases, so the income generated by rents, is fully tax exempt. And again, there may be some facilitation to or tax benefits also on distribution to the investor. Differently from the fund, this kind of instrument can be controlled by the investors in the sense that an investor may obtain up to 60% of a capital of a listed Italian REIT, and therefore may have the ability to influence on the management of the REIT without losing the tax benefit offered by the instrument. So again, pretty interesting, even if I have to say that the dimension of the investment must be significant in order to make this form of investment vehicle attractive. Just to give you an idea of some acquisition scenario, I would mention the main solution that we see applied by foreigners. One is perhaps buying an Italian company which already owns a real estate. That's often the case because there is a significant benefit given by the fact that buying a company is pretty easy. It does not trigger by itself basically any taxation. Of course, there may be a capital gain for the seller, but that's a problem for the seller. What could be the downside for the purchaser? The downside for the purchaser could be related to the embedded tax capital gain, because it often is the case that the value of the real estate is recorded in the accounts of the company at a very low amount, which was fixed in the past. And if for any reason one has to extract the real estate from the company, i.e. not selling the property, but selling the property and not the company, then there will be immediately capital gain which would become taxable in the hands of the company. However, it has to be mentioned that the Italian government sometimes allows some time windows where it's possible to increase up to the current market value, the value of real estate which is owned by companies, by paying a reduced taxation. That is a special measure taken from time to time in order to facilitate to clear situation like the one I was mentioning. But of course, it's not something which is always granted. There are opportunities that are granted from time to time. The second scenario that I would analyze is the one of purchasing a real estate through an Italian SPV. What are the pros and cons again here? The pros are based to the fact that there is a possibility to amortize along the years the cost of the investment. However, there is the downside that the so-called dormant company legislation may apply. What I mean is that unless the company buying real estate has a real real estate management business, and then it's absolutely treated as a company, and all its costs are deductible, of course, within the limits applied by the law. But if that is not the case, and the company has no other business than owning the real estate, then it could be considered a dormant company, and significant tax limitation could apply, limitation to tax deduction could apply. So that is to be considered when one considers buying a real estate through an SPV set up in Italy on purpose. Often we see either European or non-European investors investing in an Italian SPV that already owns a property or is going to buy a property. The interest point here to mention is that interest paid by an Italian company to a European company are not subject to taxation, while interest paid by an Italian company to a non-European company are subject to taxation. So again, it may be the case that if an investor not European has already a European platform for investment, take benefits of that European platform to manage in a more tax efficient its investment in Italy. A few words on the taxation of Italian companies and the taxation of Italian funds. Italian companies are taxed at the level of 31% more or less, I was mentioning, 27.5% of company income tax, and 3.9% of local municipal tax. Indirect taxation really depends on the specific transaction, because any different kind of real estate has a different treatment, so I will not go into the detail right now because it become probably not appropriate for this webinar. While the situation of a fund is absolutely different in the sense that the income of a fund is not taxed at all, and there are also reduced rates applicable to indirect taxation in the case of acquisition of real estate. The distribution to investors is subject to a taxation, but in certain cases that is not applicable. The general rule is that distribution to a foreign investor is taxed with a 26% rate of withholding tax. But if the foreign investor is an investment fund, or is a pension fund, or is a sovereign fund, or a central bank, or international organization, organized in a whitelist country, i.e. in one of those countries that the Italian government consider cooperative from the information point of view, then the distribution to the investors is can be absolutely tax exempt. Therefore, that's become very interesting, and we have seen more and more investors coming from those countries to take benefit of this possibility offered by the Italian legislation on real estate funds. This tax exemption on distribution applies also in the case that the distribution is made to a corporate vehicle, if this corporate vehicle is fully owned by a qualified investor, as the one I was mentioning before. What's going to happen if the investor is going to sell the units, i.e. sell its investment in the fund? Again, the general rule is that if the fund is listed, there is no taxation applicable in Italy. If the fund is not listed, then a 26% withholding tax would apply. But in this case, it's very important to see the provisions of international treaties on double taxation, because in most cases, that withholding tax can be reduced or even avoided. So making, again, pretty interesting the possibility of selling the investment in a real estate fund. I would stop here in order to give you the possibility to make some questions.
Yeah, we should.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Braghini. We should have. Let's see if we have some question from the audience. One, yeah, we have a couple of questions related to some of the slides we've introduced. So we have first question related to what does SPV stand for more in detail?
Sure. When we refer to an SPV, we refer to a special purpose vehicle, i.e. a corporate entity which was established for not the general business purpose, but for a specific investment purpose. And so its article of association perhaps are customized in order to fit with the aims of the investors.
Okay. Then of course we can say that and the presentation we've been showing can be definitely shared with all the people interested.
Absolutely, yes. Presentation can be shared. I see that then another questions regards the possibility of mixing the elective domicile visa with the investment on a real estate owned through a company. The benefit I was mentioning before of the elective domicile visa applies to individuals and not to companies, and so it is not definitely applicable, at least immediately. Nevertheless, I have to say that if a foreigner intends to set up a company in Italy to run a business, then it could be different, and it could be quite easy to obtain the visa to stay in Italy if it's possible to demonstrate that the business is a viable business which is able to produce an income for the owner of the company.
Okay, we have another question. Can I read for everyone? Assume an extra you investor buying a property and restructuring and managing as high and total. What could be at first sight a good structure for this deal?
Yeah, I would say that if the intention is to invest in an hotel, it really depends whether the investor is willing simply to buy the property but to have the hotel managed by somebody else, or he wants to buy the property and run the hotel business itself or with a different company of its group. In the second case, it's absolutely necessary to set up a company in Italy, because there would also be the need to get the administrative authorization to run an hotel business. And it's definitely the case that ownership of the hotel and the license are taken together into the same company. Differently, if one wants to lease the property to an hotel operator, then different structure could be available. Any kind of the structure that I mentioned before could be available. Again, there may be a downside in not having a company, because often we see that people that invest in hotels tend to not only to have the ownership of the property, of the building, but also to get the license, and then to lease the property together with the license in order to get a higher rent from the operator. But that's not always the case. So if one want to have, so in a nutshell, if one want to have the property and the license, you must have a company in Italy. If you want to invest only on the real estate and then to lease it to an operator, any kind of structure is available, can be used.
So if we don't have a further question, I just would like to thank once again Mr. Braghini of Gianni Origoni law firm for, of course, helping us introducing more in details benefits and rules of investing in Italian real estate. Definitely, as we have just said, we will make available both presentations, especially the one of Mr. Braghini for all the participants to this webinar. And thanks once again for your attention, and we will, soon keep in touch for upcoming webinar with Invest in Lombardy. So thanks, Mr. Braghini, once again.
Thank you very much to all for assisting.